Okay. So, hello, my fellow educators and school leaders. I'm Avinash, co-founder of Tomo Club. And in our Play and Learn podcast series, we have Chris Chism, the superintendent, who is from Pearl Public School District. And we are continuing a discussion on practical AI leadership in K-12. And Chris has been doing this for a while. And I would love to hear from Chris to give us a brief introduction about his journey in K-12 and AI.
Okay, first, this is year 30 for me coming up in public education. I've been doing this for a long time. It's been a great journey. I'm sort of at the back end of my career now. I will tell you, I'm a math teacher, science teacher from a long time ago, baseball coach, football coach, did all of those things as well back in the day. And I've been an administrator now. I guess I've been a principal for 9 years, and then this is my fourth year as superintendent in Pearl School District. And the AI journey is an interesting one. I have now done 175 presentations in the last 18 months, and you would think that this is just education, and it's not. I've done this for businesses. This has opened up so many opportunities for me personally, and really, quite honestly, opportunities for my district because of that. Lots of really cool things. About 6 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to speak in front of Congress, in front of a subcommittee on education. So that was interesting by itself, but a lot of fun to have conversations with legislators and listen to their concerns. And, for us on the ground, just being able to tell them the very positive ways that we can use this. And I tell people all the time, this is coming, whether you like it or not. I mean, I've been around people and places, and they're like, "This is the devil himself." I'm like, "Well, the devil's knocking at the door." So you can like it, you can not like it. This is going to be bigger than the cell phone. It's going to be bigger than the internet itself. And, obviously what's changed recently, AI has been around since the late 50s. We just called it algorithms back then, right? What changed 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, is the first language model that came out. And really, I jumped into this midnight. I got onto Chat GPT for the first time, used it all night, and I have used it every day since. I have zero formal training in AI. It's just something that I've used, and I found some really good, honestly, human algorithms to get the best out of these models. And it doesn't matter what model you're using, whether it's Chat GPT, Claude, Gemini, it doesn't matter. Garbage in is garbage out.
Yeah.
So what I teach people to do with my presentations is get the best out of these, and then try to find some local context for them as well. If it's a business, whatever business they're in, I try to build a GPT or two specifically to them. That gets their mind, flowing and thinking about it and saying, well, oh my goodness, if it will do this, then
Yeah.
what else will it do? And it's kind of the same thing in the education world. I've developed GPTs, and again, I think I've trained 44 districts in the state now. We have over 150 districts, so I'm close to a fourth of the way through. So I'm making my way all around the state, teaching people to use this and how you have to shift the classroom a little bit to make sure that kids are using this and using it ethically as well. So really, that's my journey. It's been, strangely enough, my biggest fear in life is public speaking, and now I've done it 175 times in 8 states now. So it's been a blessing to me to be able to meet a lot of people and that I wouldn't have met otherwise, and then see a lot of school districts I wouldn't have seen otherwise. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, literally. And I personally also believe that this revolution is nothing like before. You cannot, people do use that narrative that, just like calculators came and the internet came. But I'm like, no, it's nothing like that because first of
No,
all, the speed, it is evolving. Secondly, the amount of possibilities are enormous, like beyond our imagination also sometimes. And we have to change so many things at a rapid pace. So if previous innovation was coming out in pockets, everyone had time to catch up. And even if they were not, it still wasn't getting them out of business. This might. So it's a whole different
no
ballgame
doubt.
happening right now. And I think I have done this a lot. So I would rather ask something different questions because I'm pretty sure our audience is now also not at AI 101, but beyond that. They've gone beyond that. So
Yeah, sure.
first thing I would like to know more about the legislator. How was that experience talking to the Congress? And I would like to know from everything. Like, what were the questions? Was it even aired? Like, was that proceedings aired online?
Yeah, yeah, you can actually go to YouTube and watch it. This was probably about 6 weeks ago. It was a fun experience. It was different,
Hmm.
and again, it's so funny. It doesn't matter what state you're in. It doesn't matter who you talk to, whether it's a legislator, business person, educator. Everybody has concerns, and
Yeah.
they should. This can be a very scary subject, and there's going to be bad actors in every walk of life. It doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter what job you're in. So a lot of those questions that came to me were concerns. Like, I have a concern that this is going to inhibit my child's ability to write. Well, what I would tell you is it depends on what we do in the classroom, how we shift the classroom to make it available for the kid. And what I would tell you for the student is now we get more writing in because we're now using AI as a tool. So it's those type things. What happens when what kind of policies do you put in place? And interestingly enough, I'm probably the wrong person to ask that question. We
Hmm.
don't have any policies. I
Yeah.
don't believe in policy unless you need one. Right
Yeah.
now, if a student gets caught cheating, they're cheating, and everything else falls right up under our acceptable user agreement. So we don't have a policy. We don't develop policies unless we need those. So lots of questions around policy. And I will tell you though, I think the most fun though at in Congress was after it was over with. It's the one-on-one conversations. It is talking with lobbyists, and that's how our country runs anyway. Talking with the lobbyists, talking with policy advisors, and then talking to the representatives and senators themselves, and just their own concerns, their own questions. You'll find that some states have banned this altogether.
Yeah.
Like, you can't put any AI on a state computer. Well, how far behind are your kids going to be?
Exactly.
And I keep up with this. And when Chat GPT came out, we start talking about AGI,
Mm.
right? They thought this was 7 to 10 years away.
Yeah.
We're already at AGI. We're right on the cusp of that and moving into super intelligent. This is most technologies have that curve that goes up, right? We're not curving. We're going straight up right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's what people don't see. And so a big part of my presentation and what I presented to the legislators as well is the same thing. That this is moving so fast that in education we're always last to get on board with whatever. We got to be
Yeah.
first here, and we've got a really good chance here in Mississippi. We have the main network here, which is a fabulous program. Kids and adults can take online classes for free at Gulf Coast Community College. So there's lots of really good things going on here in the state, and I personally feel like we should be on the front end. So
Yeah.
it's been a passion of mine for, a year and a half to 2 years, and I plan to continue that. So it was a good experience, a fun experience. The flights getting there were not. I
Mm.
literally arrived. If you go and watch this, understand I spent the night in the Charlotte airport.
Okay.
So I threw on a suit and I got there with 2 minutes to spare.
Wow.
They forced me through security and I walked right out on the floor. And we started from there. So it was a little disconcerting getting there, but a lot of fun once I made it.
No, I wish there was a reality TV show. I know there was a cameraman behind you covering all this. It would have been quite a video.
Oh, it would have been great.
Okay. So I get it. I think you already mentioned about the reservations or the concerns coming from left, right, center, and in itself also that this technology is something which we may or may not be able to tame a lot of places, and it may go out of hand. So we understand the concern. So let's talk more about the brighter side. That I read a lot about your background in data utilization. You talk about that a lot. So how do you see AI's potential for predictive analysis? Not just for academic performance, but perhaps for students' well-being, attendance pattern, or operational efficiencies like
Oh
bus
yeah.
routing. Like, I think the predictive analysis, which you mentioned, right? There were algorithms before also, but these algorithms are coming right now in the hands of people. They can actually talk in English and just ask. So there's so many optimization you can do. So have you guys thought about the predictive analysis of AI?
Well, that's actually why, and I think I told you on the phone earlier, and I'll express this now. We bought a little over a year ago. We started our own AI server here, so we have our own. So part of this is in the education world, we got to be very careful about FERPA laws, right? So I can't put student names, I can't put student information on it. So
Right.
I'm looking for a way around that for that specific reason. I wanted predictive analysis. I wanted a multiple regression that we can do some predictions on, probably as early as third and fourth grade. My
Right.
ultimate goal is to do some predictions here in the district that will give kids pathways once they hit that middle school.
Mm.
So again, and we can do that based. There's lots of programs out there that do similar things to this, but those are nationwide.
Mm.
That's not my kids in Pearl. I
Right.
wanted to do this for just my kids. We have data for the last 12, 15 years here.
Mm.
That is the purpose of our AI server. Now we do 1,000 other things with it, but that is my ultimate goal, is to do predictive analytics. And again, it is perfect for that. AI picks out patterns that we don't see as humans, even if we've been doing data for 100 years, right? It's so good at picking out those patterns. So that's what we want to do, and using it for other things. Our local server, trying to find the best bus patterns and I know there's routing software. Understand that. I
I
get
know.
all of that.
Yeah.
But now I can overlay a map and I can put student names, their
Right.
families, kids' names, and it will it can create routes for us.
And
We
100%
can
of that.
do yeah, go ahead. We can do 10 years of spending in the district, taking that's not something I would want on a public server, right?
Right.
Not like OpenAI or
Mm.
Anthropic or any of these others. I want to keep that my information private, but I still want the ability to use languages, those large language models, to help me pick out patterns. So we can do 10 years of spending and look for things that we can do a little bit more efficiently. So I am open to all ideas with this, but the predictive analytics,
Mm.
that's a game changer in education. And not only that, let's take that a step further. Let's take predictive analytics. Let's marry that with our state standards. Let's marry that with what we know about reading. And then let's marry that with a special ed student's IEP.
Mhm.
We can create a path to proficiency for that kid. So that right there is extremely, extremely powerful, and it's not something that we can do now. I mean, it takes all of these things and puts it in one big pretty box with a bow.
Yeah. Now, I'll give you one. First of all, I want to ask that if you have internal private servers, does that override the COPPA compliance? Like, can you run your own private LLMs with the student sensitive information and able to do it? Will that satisfy the law?
It absolutely satisfies the law because it doesn't touch the internet.
Internet.
So the only time we allow it, we monitor everything that goes out. And again, it does not. The only time it ever goes out is if we're downloading another language. So we run, just so you're aware, we run Llama 3, 70B, 3.2, Mistral, Gemma. We run DeepSeek R1, DeepSeek 1776, DeepSeek R3. So we've downloaded all of these models, and all of them do a little something different.
Right.
So that's the fun part of having my own server, is now I can take something that's I can take a language that's really good with Excel,
Mhm.
and I can now start developing on that. Well, some of these others may not be good with Excel. Some of these won't read PDFs. Like there's all these pros and cons with every language that you use. So this is one of the things that we do, and it just gives us so much more flexibility than using something like ChatGPT or one of the others. They're powerful. Understand the models that ChatGPT and Anthropic and Gemini and all of these, they are super powerful models. I
Mhm.
know we're just a half a step behind with the open source models.
Right.
However, they're customizable. And not only customizable there, I can customize things like temperature, all of the back end things that ChatGPT can do, I can now do on my own server.
Right.
So I can adjust the creativity or make it be more succinct. I can do all of those things myself, and that's a powerful tool too.
Interesting. I'll give you a theory about. So there's a very famous black box theory. That in aviation, since there was a black box and it was very like closely controlled system, so every small learnings in aviation was literally surpassed to all the systems, all the airlines, and hence aviation became one of the most safest mode of transport. And there's a theory that had the black box theory been applicable, let's say in healthcare or let's say in education, the
Yeah.
learnings of each inefficiencies, the problems or the experiences of everyone could have been collated, and it would have like improved everything by massive scale over the years, which could not
Quickly.
happen. And now this is the first that, like you mentioned, like this is the first opportunity in real sense where all those things are possible without billion or dollars investment, which a lot of private companies does because of this open network. And I always wish, that had that black box at the same time, of course, maintaining the anonymity and privacy and just
Yeah.
passing on the insights. And there was none. And hence healthcare always remain such a uh, craft. People say that doctor has a magic hands, or that educator has a magic hand, and that magic was never decoded. So I think this might be the first time,
Right.
whether it in terms of teacher schedule, students management of time, or how are you creating new grading systems with the changing student needs. Like we work with a lot of students, and the most sought after career that student talks about in middle school is being a YouTuber. And
Right.
I don't know if I'm pretty sure you know about it. And when we try to decode with them that, okay, let's break down the career of a YouTuber into subtasks, and while doing it, 50% of them are like, oh my God, I didn't know how much energy or how much creativity goes in it. So I think, and some of them were really invested, and they could also plan their path much more efficiently. So I do see. I think I am super impressed. Literally, if you have already done that groundwork, I think you might be leading above and over and above all the California and New York and other Chicago and all this states, which are always tend to be technology first. This is absolutely brilliant, Chris.
Well, thank you. It's been a lot of fun again, and believe it or not, I have a lot of these other states that I've gone to. I've done some educational things there, but really it's the tech side of things, if you can believe that. I went to Texas. I did this presentation for a whole bunch of really the tech leaders in the state, all the states. And
Mhm.
after it was over with, California, since you mentioned that, California walked up to me and he said, "You telling me you have your own server?" And I
Yeah.
said, "No, we have two." Like yeah, he's kind of picking on Mississippi. And I'm like, no, we've got smart people here too. I've got and really you would think that we have this huge team here running this, right? It's not. It's
Mhm.
me and my tech guy. That's
Wow.
it. It's just he and I. He builds the car and I drive it. I understand the build,
Mm.
but I couldn't build it myself. So
Yeah.
he's built it. Anytime I want an update or something, he takes care of that. And then I'm the one that teaches. And look, we do lots of things with teachers here. I have a teacher superintendent advisory group. So we have two teachers from every building that come to come to central office, and we do training. We prompt generate. That's
Mm.
what we do. We teach it together. Then I teach them to do it on Chat GPT, and
Mm.
then we move it over to other languages on our server in the spring.
Mhm.
And I guess whenever I first started, I'm thinking, well, I could take those prompts. I know it's a different language. It's got to be similar. It's not.
Mm.
You take a Chat GPT prompt that does exactly what you want it to do and you move it to Mistral, it's going to be completely different. So, what's fun is getting to see our teachers' eyes get open to all the possibilities that are out there whenever they start using multiple languages and then they have access to it. They go back to their building, they can log right into it as long as they're on our local network.
Right.
So, it's just been a lot of fun to see the spark that comes in their eyes. When I have a teacher, I'll give you a quick. I don't know how long we've got, but I'll give
Yeah,
you a
please go ahead.
quick.
We have all the time. I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick story. I have a teacher who is she's a 10th grade teacher and 12th grade teacher here. She's been doing this for 29 years too. She called me this fall and she said, I can't do this anymore. Like I'm tired. And I said, well, what are you saying? She said, I'm saying I'm going to retire. And I said, nope, you're not. I need
Mm.
you to come over here and talk to me. So she came over and we sat down and chatted for a little while. And she said, I've got a kid in ninth grade now and she's in band. And if you know anything about band and Pearl, it is all day, every day, twice on weekends, Sundays, holidays. It doesn't matter. Like
Mm.
it's an all day thing. She said, I really need to be a mom and I really need to be a wife. And
Mm.
I said, so what's the time constraint that's
Yeah.
causing this? Like you work 8 hours a day, which she said, I grade papers at home every night.
Right.
I said, what if we could fix that? So
Mm.
she sat down with me, and for the next hour, we uploaded the state writing rubric. We took everything that she taught and we scripted it into a GPT.
Mhm.
She now doesn't have to grade papers, and she is now staying.
Mm.
That's the power of AI. And here's a side effect of that, and something I wasn't thinking about. I'm thinking about keeping a fabulous teacher in a seat.
Right.
Okay. That was my goal. Here was a great side effect of that. It used to take her 7 to 10 days to get feedback back to kids
Right.
because she's grading 150 of these.
Mm.
Now we're getting instant feedback, which means that we are writing 3, 4, 5 times the amount that we were before. So we're getting more curriculum in just by being more efficient. And
Mhm.
again, some people will say, well, she's cheating. She's using AI to grade. She's not.
Yeah.
AI is not grading for her.
Mm.
She is using AI as a tool to give feedback to kids. That's
Right.
two totally different things. So again, that's a great story of how that efficiency will keep people's rears in seats. I mean, there's so many things that we can do. Again, I had this conversation the other day. We do RFPs, requests for proposals here, all the
Mm.
time. So I'm talking efficiency here. Every
Yeah.
school district in the country has to do these. If we're using federal money, we've got to tie it to federal law. If we're using state money, obviously state law, then local policies, and also all purchasing laws in the state.
Mhm.
So when we did an RFP for computers in the district, we're spending several $1 million. We have 4,300 students here, right? So when we did that RFP, it took my CFO and I probably 3 or 4 days to go through it and
Mm.
get it right. I'm like, why are we doing that? So I created a GPT for it. It points to federal law. It points to state code. I've uploaded all the purchasing laws and our local policies. Now an RFP from start to finish takes less than 15 minutes.
Mm.
That's efficiency. For principals, let's upload our student handbook and teacher handbook. Let's create an agent for them to where all they have to do is go in and type a question. It gives you the answer and tells you what page number it's on.
Right.
The High School Activities Association, there's so many rules about transfers and other things. I created a GPT for that. All the person's got to do is go in and put in the information, and it will give you the answer and the page number. So again, all of these things are just about efficiency and being faster and better at your job.
Okay. No, absolutely makes sense. In fact, I have some school leaders who said that they're able to get funding like like applying for funds because of ChatGPT. They were able to do
Absolutely.
they were able to apply every fund possible, every program possible because they could do it quickly. Otherwise, they used to miss on so many opportunities just because they didn't have time to apply for it. So you're right. Efficiency
Correct.
is definitely happening. And also coming to your previous point, like you said that there are different models which are good for specific things. I think that is one of the main reason. I think any school district right now which is going to buy one single product for the school or teachers, it's a very bad strategy because that
I
product
agree.
may or may not evolve the speed at which in general technology shift is happening. For example, few months back chat gpt was my go-to thing. Now Gemini 2.5 is my go-to thing. For my data management, I love Claude more than anything. For
And coding.
for yeah, for coding. And like even right now I have some scripts running which manage my entire computer remotely. So I try to make my own private Jarvis using Claude, and it does
Yeah,
does a lot of things, of course, with some mistakes, but still it's reaching there. So the point is that similarly in my team, some people have a liking to certain products, some people have liking to something else, and it get the job done. So if I would have an AI policy that okay, everyone is gonna use this tool, it's going to break, it's going to stop the growth, it's going to stop the possibility of learning. So I think marrying any one product is the worst thing possible right now in my understanding.
I agree wholeheartedly. Wholehearted. And businesses are having this problem too.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what I tell them. I did a training for them on using AI, and I went back and did a second training. And believe it or not, they brought in all of their people from all of the other countries. We had people from South America, Sweden, Germany. They came back and asked me to do it again. So I did it again for this big group. And they also had their company IT person there. So here's what he had done. He had built, and he had an AI model that's
Hmm.
built in. And of course, they're worried about proprietary information. That
Yes.
makes sense, right? But what they didn't understand is how powerful these other models were. They were locked into the one model that he gave them access to.
Yeah.
And their company said you can't use anything else. Well, when they saw what Claude can do, when they saw what OpenAI could do, when they saw what Gemini could do, and all of them are they all are very similar, but they have different expertises, I guess is what you could say. They're
Yeah.
better at certain things than others. So once they saw that, they're like, wow, we have really messed up as a company by
Mhm.
locking ourselves into this one model. And I'll be honest with you, the model wasn't very good. I played with it a little bit. It
Mhm.
was terrible. I mean, it was the when he put it in, it was probably top of the line, but
Yeah.
that was 3 years prior,
Wow.
and
That's like
models have
million
just
years.
gone through
Yeah.
the roof.
Mhm.
So yes, picking. And what happens if you put all of your eggs in the Gemini basket, and then all of a sudden Google says we're just not doing this anymore. We're done with it.
Yeah.
Then you just put yourself in a really bad situation as a company or a school or anything else. So I have that same conversation with everybody. I like the openness. That's why we have not picked a singular thing. I like Chat GPT. The
Mhm.
information that comes back is really good, and for what we use it for, it's fabulous. For the things that I want to use here at central office, that's why we have our local server. So I have different principals. My CFO, she can use a different language if she wants to. We can branch out and do different things there.
Mhm. Makes sense. See, I understand a lot of innovations that you have done at your district is coming from your own personal enthusiasm. How do you percolate it down to your teammates so that they're also keeping up with the trend?
Wow, that's a good question. I will tell you this. You would think talking to me that every teacher in my district's using this, right? No,
Does feel
no.
like that.
Most are.
Like
We actually
your
got on
energy is
a
infectious, honestly.
Yeah, I got on a call with OpenAI the other day, and they told me about 70% of my teachers here in the district use it. So I feel like that's a pretty good number,
Yeah.
because I have very intentionally been slow with this.
Mhm.
Sometimes to go fast, you have to go slow. I have to give them a reason to want to use this. So again, if you jump in, we had our fourth and fifth grade building. They didn't like the poetry that was sent with the new curriculum.
Mhm.
There's my end. So I go in, I teach prompt generation, I give them the training, and then I teach them one thing to do, which is let's build poetry together. So
Mhm.
what happens then is they see it build the poetry, and they go, well, if it'll do that, what else will it do? So that's how it sparks that enthusiasm. And then again, my group of teachers that come in every month with me, now, what am I doing there? I'm teaching them to fish. So when they get back out to their buildings, then they start sharing with their partners and people around them some of the things that they're building, and that expands from the ground up. So really, that's how I built it here. We don't do whole district trainings. If
Mhm.
we do that, it's one more thing.
Yeah.
Teachers don't want one more thing. If I did this for an entire building, it would be one more thing. I had one principal ask me to do that for his entire building. I said, it's not a good idea, but if
Mhm.
you want me to do that, I will do it. So I did. Guess which building's not using it? I've
Yeah.
got a few in that building that are, but not many.
Right.
Why? Because I did a full training. You've
Mhm.
got to give them a very specific reason. Yesterday, I did this for architects. I did
Mhm.
it for a company here in town. They asked me to come over. I did a 2-hour training. So I built two GPTs for architects.
Mhm.
One that handles all the Mississippi codes for architects, for building. The other thing was building green spaces. So now I hooked them in with those two GPTs that I created for them. Now, since I gave you some fish, it's time to teach you to fish. So
Mhm.
that's sort of the way that I go about this. It's in a give them specific use cases that make their life easier. Then you get them hooked, and then they'll run with it.
I think perfect. That's a beautiful answer that lead it by example. I think that's the way. And then just leave them hanging by giving them the taste and let them just chew whatever way they want to do it. But giving them the taste is important. I think you are hitting the right chords on that. This question was not planned question that I want to ask you, but it's just coming to my mind. How do you manage the like balance versus stability right now? Okay, let me frame it. How do you balance this, create stability in this environment when things are also evolving so fast? Because I'm not saying in your case, but in general, teachers are supposed to handle millions of things. So even though they know this technology can help, but they need to keep up. So how do you create stability in this chaos?
That's an interesting question. I really thought you were talking about stability with myself with all these presentations I've been doing. And really, I tell people all the time, the only reason I can do this is I get my work done. You know
Yeah.
how I get my work done? I use AI.
Hmm.
I save 30 to 40% of my job in my time as superintendent by using AI. So I think that's what I want to get out to teachers as well.
Right.
I built a lesson planner for them in the district. The principals have now built lesson planners. They don't have to build lessons anymore. And I don't mean that we're trying to make them lazy. I'm saying that we're using something that's got a 150 IQ that can search thousands of websites and research in a matter of seconds. And we're using that to form the backbone of what a lesson should look like. Right? It's not perfect. It's not going to come back. 95% of it's going to be really, really good.
Right.
So teaching them how they can save time is a big deal to us. And then so that's where the balance comes from. I think we're unbalanced right now because we've asked them to do so many things as teachers. So giving them some efficiencies, practical everyday use efficiencies, that gives them some of their time back to spend on other things that we're asking them to do. So I think once they see it as that, then they start running with it. They stop being scared and go, okay, well, what
Hmm.
else can it do? You think about a word that, let's say their kids are reading in class and the teacher doesn't really know how to express to the kids what this word means. Well, we can pull up Chat GPT and have it write 5 sentences and let's use context clues. Boom. What if I have 3 kids that don't speak any English in the back? I can change languages, airdrop it to them. It takes 2 seconds. Like there's just so many. What if I've got a kid that's not on this seventh grade reading level? He's on a fourth grade. Well, let's edit the text and make that fourth grade reading level. Boom, airdrop it to the child. Like there's just so many things that you can be so much more efficient with that otherwise would have been taking you hours to go make copies or go and change this, use this program, use that. It's all in one. AI will do almost everything that you want it to do. So I've seen a lot of money saving on our end as well. There's
Yeah.
some programs that we've gotten rid of. We don't need it anymore. This is
Right.
$20 a month. You can't beat it.
So did you buy OpenAI like premium accounts for your teachers, or they're using it for free version?
No, they're using most of our teachers have done the $20 a month version, but here's what we have in our state. We have something called an EEF card. It's educational enhancement funds. They put about the state gives each teacher a card. The district has no control over that. Okay. So it goes right into the teacher's hands. They get about $600 or $700 that they can spend on whatever they want for their classroom. So almost all teachers have paid for the $20 subscription using that EEF card. Doesn't cost them a dime.
That's interesting. I never heard it before. So this is something very new to me, and I've been working in education for a while. Um, okay, how do you ensure that critical thinking is not missed in AI space? And by that I mean that when teachers are using AI, and it can have its own inaccuracies, it can have its own um, unsaid bias or hallucination. So how do you go about telling people that be critical in this space?
Oh, that's a fabulous question. And that comes up a lot. How do we know the information coming back is good?
Yeah.
So I teach them to script that in, especially in Chat GPT. It's really easy to do.
Mhm.
We script out bias in Chat GPT as much as we can. We script out politics in Chat GPT. And then also we ask for a URL for any information that it uses. So
Yeah.
now every answer that we get's got a clickable link right there that I can go back and say, will it use Wikipedia here? We're not going to use Wikipedia as a resource, right? So again, it's teaching them the little things, the little ticks. I mean, the tips and tricks to get the information out that you're looking for. So we do that in the settings of OpenAI. So I teach. That's part of what I teach. And again, like you've got a. I'll give you a perfect example. Butler Snow is a huge law firm here. Well, guess what happened over in Alabama for a multi-million-dollar case? They used AI to write a brief and it hallucinated and made up 2 court cases that don't exist.
Okay.
Well, if they had just put a small paragraph in, that wouldn't have happened. So
Hmm.
again, you have to be very specific at what you tell the model you want and how you want that information to come back to you. And again, those are super important skills for
Yeah.
kids to have.
Right.
Not just teachers, kids. I do my presentation for juniors and seniors here. So
Hmm.
I actually go out as the superintendent and teach classes on this.
Hmm.
So we're going to teach them the skills that they need to walk into a workplace so that doesn't happen to them.
I
Now,
feel,
critical thinking,
yeah.
again, we have to shift our focus in the classroom. Again, why do I care where the information comes from as long as, and I say that tongue in cheek, hear me when I say this,
Yeah.
as Google used to be a cheat. We had Encyclopedia Britannica before that, right? Then
Yeah.
it became the internet and Google, and kids are going to cheat because they're going to get information really fast without. This is just Google on steroids, right? So why do I care where that information comes from as long as the kid gets the standard and can teach the standard to somebody else? So there's where critical thinking comes in. So we just have to shift our lessons to where we don't care whether a kid uses OpenAI or uses our own server or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Hmm.
Let's make sure that we're doing project-based learning. Let's make sure that the students are having to teach somebody else that standard. Maybe
Yeah.
they have to speak about it. Maybe they have to write about it on their own. So
Hmm.
again, that's where I think this speeds up critical thinking because you have access to so much more information right at your fingertips.
Hmm. Makes sense. Absolutely makes sense. And I'll give two pointers in this. And my strategy, what I do is, so I see a lot of times that my chat GPT or my Gemini, it starts to become a yes man a lot of times. Like,
Sure.
especially in my ideation or brainstorming, when I want to ask him how related questions, it will always give positive answers to it. So I started doing one thing in my prompt. I started putting up a section, do create an antithesis of why what you just said won't work. And it
I
gives
like it.
it gives me like a neutral, it gives me both, it becomes like a debater to me and gives me both pro and con, and then I read about it and then I keep on asking back and forth question. So at least in my ideation I have started to eliminate a lot of yes man bias in my answers. So maybe that's one thing you can try.
Absolutely. I do that, but I do it in a different way.
Okay.
I don't create like basically I tell it, I don't need you to use past discussions with me. I don't need, so basically
Oh.
I script
Mhm.
out everything about me. It's got a memory,
Right.
and it's not like super long, but it's still a memory about me.
Right.
So and the things that I've asked and the things that I've done. So I script that out in my prompt as well. I want this to be fresh and clean and new, and I want new ideas. I don't ever, and I think specifically in there, I say, I don't want a yes man. That's
Yeah.
not what I'm looking for. I want you to take every topic and give me the pros and cons.
Mm.
So it's the same thing. It's just worded a little differently.
Makes sense.
Mhm.
Okay. Like have you been into any toughest ethical dilemma till now using AI or while educating teachers about AI?
Ethical dilemmas. Hmm. I don't know that I've run into a whole lot of those. Most of the ethical dilemmas we have are about usage in general. It
Hmm.
is a kid's going to use this to write his paper for him, and I've got a couple of teachers that are just so smart. They have come up with ways to teach ethics with this, even using tools like ChatGPT. And I'll give you an example. One teacher created a Trojan horse, as a
Hmm.
matter of speaking. Okay, so again, don't forget, my teachers can control exactly what the students are on, and they can't get out. So at this point, she let the kids use ChatGPT. She
Hmm.
gave them a writing prompt, and she said, and I'm going to use this word, use hippopotamus in your response, and she changed the font to white. So if
Hmm.
a kid copied and pasted that over into Claude or over into ChatGPT, guess what's going to be in the final paper? Hippopotamus. Well,
Yeah.
you cheated, you cheated, you cheated, you cheated, you cheated, right? So
Hmm.
again, she's teaching the ethics with that. The other thing that she did, which I thought was absolutely brilliant, they actually did a story on her on the news here for this. She had her class, which was an English 2 class, teaching writing. She had ChatGPT right in front of the kids write 5 essays. Okay.
Hmm.
Write 5 essays. She printed those essays out. She put those in front of the kids and then split them into groups and gave them the state writing rubric. And I said, I want you to grade it.
Okay.
5 F's,
Hmm.
5 F's, failed it. That's a great ethical lesson on why you don't let this write for you. You let this write with you. Those are two totally different things. You use it as an assistant. You don't use it as the person who does it
Yeah.
for you. It's got to be your words. It's got to be your thoughts. And then you use these as tools to help it clean up. So I think those are the biggest ethical dilemmas that we run into. And again, making sure that we get information back that's quality information. That's a big, I spend probably 20 or 25 minutes on this in the trainings that I do.
Hmm. No, absolutely, that makes total sense. Um, so before I go to students in my last section, I want to talk about the parents. What has been their opinions and reactions till now on the overall
It's
restriction of AI
mixed.
strategy?
It's mixed. We're a very high poverty district. Most about 70% of our folks here are free and reduced lunch below the poverty line. So it's mixed response. So some of these people that are in poverty homes, they don't have access to this, so they don't know much about it. Which means what? They're scared of it.
Yeah.
So I've done a couple of trainings for parents here, if you can believe that,
Wow.
just to show them this is not something to be scared of, and I will tell you too, since every state swapped over to Common Core many years ago,
Mhm.
math is a little different. I used to be a math teacher. The way they teach math is a little different than the way that I was taught. Parents get really frustrated when they can't help their kids with homework.
Yeah.
Now I create a homework helper for them, send that out to parents. Now a parent can help their child at home. Stop being that again, use case. There's my use case for a parent. Now that gets them interested in it, right? So I
Yeah.
think it's the fear with most of them. And again, legitimate fear that this is going to take away from the educational experience of kids. I get that. But we also, I'm going to say again, some of our parents here think this is the devil. Great. But
Hmm.
you need to understand the devil's knocking on the door.
Yeah.
So I would rather your child be on that train going that direction than standing on the platform watching it go by.
Yeah.
So when you put it in that context, parents see it. I show them videos in my presentation where if you've seen OpenAI's robot, figure one and figure two, most people don't realize figure two is now working in a BMW plant in Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Right.
So we have Nissan here, we have Toyota here, plants. Do you think in 3 years they're not going to have robots working in there too?
Yeah.
We better get our kids prepared for something else. And
Right.
what's that something else? I don't know. Here's what I do know: quantum computing and AI is going to be the basis of all of it.
Hmm.
So I would rather have them have the prerequisite skills. So I think once I put it in those terms, parents tend to understand a little better. I've also got on our local TV station and talked about this pretty extensively. I've done this presentation for our board. I've had lots of opportunities to give. Again, I've done 175 of these in 18 months. I've been averaging about 10 a month.
Wow.
And that's a lot. It's a lot of time, but it's also worthwhile. It's so worth it for Mississippi kids to be on the front end of this
Mhm.
instead of being at the back. And
Yeah.
that's where we've been for so many years.
But I understand that I love that fact again that you have like repeated the same pattern that give them
Mhm.
a taste to it and then let them explore. Uh, what about like in the latest report by Chat GPT, the highest or the most common use case is students seeking companionships, students seeking
Ooh.
mental health support from AI, and in that way they are becoming much more. They're happier because that companion is 24/7 available and has never complaints from them. So and parents have that issues that there are no guardrails on OpenAI type platforms. And even if you define guardrails, it can go out of way and there
You
is
can sidestep them,
no
sure.
flagging, no notifications coming to the teachers or coming to you. Um, so how do you manage that?
I think that's probably the scariest thing for me. I saw the same report. I've actually got the chart that's in my presentation as well. That's moved from number two to number
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
From last year to this year, I guess you saw. And
Mm.
really, if you look at the top three use cases, all of them are personal.
Yes.
These aren't business; they're all personal, which is a little bit scary to a certain extent. Again, I think garbage in is garbage out.
Mhm.
So it's a little scary that they're using this as kids could use this as companionship. Uh, that part is very, very scary to me because what if it tells a kid something that it shouldn't? But I also think that this is out of our control. Like this should be parental control. That
Yeah.
was one of the big questions that came up in Washington as well. I'm like, you have to teach kids how to use this appropriately as parents. but
Right.
that means that you have to be informed as parents.
Hmm.
And then I will say that don't forget OpenAI. That's not just use cases here in the United States. That's going to be worldwide. And you see what's happening in Japan and China right now.
Yeah.
They are creating companions for people. So
Yeah.
it doesn't surprise me. That's included in this, right? So that part's a little bit scary for me. Again, we can only control what we can control.
Right.
So I can't fix what happens for the hours that they're at home. We're going to really focus on the 8 hours that we have here, and then will help mitigate those other issues in any way that we can when they come up. I don't know that there's a solution for that. I
Yeah.
think there's some pros to it, but there's also some cons to it as well, especially if you get on like Grok. And you start getting on the paid version of Grok and you get the unabridged version, it'll say anything like
Yeah.
there are no guardrails. And
Exactly.
Elon believes that. So there's a place for that as well. But it scares me when a kid gets access to something like that. I think that's something that our Congress is probably going to have to work on, or our states are going to have to work on.
Now, there has been a lot of lawsuits against Character.ai and other companies in which the digital companion has instigated the students to do something
Yeah.
they shouldn't. But see, the problem is that schools as an institution, whether they like it or not, cannot shrug off their responsibility 24/7. Whether it was
No.
social media, uh, teachers doesn't know what Snapchat does or what is stories, what's 24 hours disappearing stories, or what are these filters, and what is now deep fake coming in, and people are
Oh
having
yeah.
fake videos, fake news. So, like it or not, people expect way too much from those 8 hours at school.
They do.
And the responsibility is gonna come down to educators. So yeah, I think you're right on the fact that you cannot control it outside school, but still you have to train teachers, you have to train students, and
That's right.
that brings me to the last part. What are you doing about the AI literacy for students, overall? As is it as a program, or are you following the same strategy? Give them a taste and let them explore.
It's the same thing. It's the same pattern. Let's give them a taste. Let's create something that they'll like, something they'll do with it, and then I let the teacher take over from that point. So again, my goal is, again, I've said this multiple times, is to teach people to fish.
Hmm.
I don't want to I can create anything in the world. I mean, I'm creating my own agents, automated agents now, right? So that'll do things with my email. I'm creating things people ask me how I stay up on this all the time because I've used N8N to create my own agent that will email me the top 5 articles from the last week
Hmm.
every other day, every other morning at 5 a.m. Like it. So again, I think it's the idea I can create anything in the world for you. What I want to do is give you the skills so you can start creating on your own. And that is what I have impressed upon our teachers. That's what I'm teaching. Again, it's leading by example. Here's
Hmm.
what I know in school districts, if principals aren't using it, that means teachers aren't using it.
Yeah.
If teachers aren't using it, kids aren't using it. So it better start with me.
Right.
So when I teach principals to use this and I teach teachers to use this, they see it. They see the use cases, then they can go back and take that same pattern to kids. That's the ultimate goal. And again, hear me when I say this. We're not doing this with elementary kids. We're
Hmm.
not doing this with junior high kids. We're coding at those ages, but we're not focused on AI. AI is going to be 10th, 11th, and 12th grade for us.
Hmm.
So that's we're really focusing on possibly the ethics piece at the junior high level. I
Hmm.
think that's a good place to come in. Let's
Yeah.
start with coding at the elementary levels. Let's look at ethics at the middle school levels. And then we start using actual tools once they move to high school. I think that's a good pattern and a good route for us to use.
Right.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but ultimately that's what I'd like to see here.
No, it does get paint a picture about your AI literacy at student level policy. And to be honest, I've been feeling like this is one of the few times I feel challenged. Like I was on my toes right now to in this podcast, and I felt like I'm talking like a Harvard or MIT level professor who is PhD in AI. So it has been fantastic, honestly, this podcast from me, and I am running out of questions. You know what? I have canceled out at least 10 questions because you have answered them in the first 5 minutes.
Oh
so
well.
so loved it.
And really, I want you to know I've had no formal training on this, none. This is literally just me playing with the systems. understanding the patterns that those needs to come that those systems, I don't care which system you're using, it doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
still the same patterns. Like you put in the X, Y, and Z, this is what you're going to get on the back end. And I think that's where my presentation to other people has been so popular because they can instantly, don't make the mistakes I made.
Yeah.
Here's how you avoid all the mistakes. I'm going to give you all the tips, tricks, and hints that you can put in while you're in the presentation with me. You're
Hmm.
sitting right there. Go ahead, type this in right now. Now I'm helping you. And then you go back and tweak it however you want it. So I think that's why the popularity has happened. I am not a genius in this at all. This is just literally hands-on learning for over 2.5 years, or about 2.5 years since ChatGPT came out. It's been fun for me. And
Yeah.
it's been useful in my job. And all I'm trying to do is help other people make it useful in their job as well. So it's been a lot of fun.
Perfect. This is fantastic. Thank you so much, Chris, for like giving so much knowledge in such a small time, power pack. And I'm sure when this video goes out, it's gonna help a lot of people. Um,
And
and
I don't
spark a lot of
mind.
curiosity.
Uh, I don't mind. This is I Hear me when I say this. I don't care. There's 100,000 people that have my cell phone number and
Yeah.
they have my email address. They are welcome. My cell number is 662-549-0257. If you have any questions or anything I can help you with, you can text me anytime. Phone calls, it just depends on where I am in the day. Text message, it may be an hour before I get back to you, but I promise you I will get back to you. And my email address, you can do cchism, CCHISM 82 at gmail.com. That one will get to me. I don't get to answer that during the school day, but I can catch that later on. If you send it to my school district email, boy, I've got so many filters on it. I just don't get many emails through to my inbox. So, which is
Yeah.
again why I'm creating an N8N script that will go in and actually put these in the right inboxes for me and also create drafts for me. Whenever I walk in on Monday morning, I'll have all my drafts created. So again, just so many uses. But I'm more than happy to help. If anybody has follow-ups or questions, I'm more than happy to help. And the same goes for you. If we can, maybe this is the start of a good relationship. We can pick up the phone and call and see what you're doing and how. I'm more than happy to do that.
No, absolutely. This is fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm gonna stop recording.